34 updates, 27 that you might actually care about, 1.5 years, the history of Hypixel Skyblock. Brought to you by the like button, the subscribe button, and the all notification buttons. Please, this video took a lot of research. Hey guys, Duct here, and it's been a while. And since it's been a while, I chose to make the most difficult video that I could come up with, which makes a lot of sense. Also, I have a new profile picture and banner, which you may or may not have noticed, which I think are looking absolutely great. Christmas theme on point. Anyways, let's jump into the history of Hypixel Skyblock. There are 34 numbered Hypixel Skyblock updates. If we remove any updates that are primarily bug fixes, we can get that number down to 27 updates with some content addition. This video will be part 1 and cover from Hypixel Skyblock's release date on June 11th of 2019 all the way to July 1st of 2020, which means part 2 will begin with the release of the first dungeon. Skyblock was released to ranked players on June 11th of 2019 to a massive influx of users. It was opened with the 7 basic skills of farming, foraging, mining, combat, fishing, enchanting, and alchemy. On top of that, majority of the basic collections were introduced since the beginning, although there have been a lot of additions and changes since the original release. Skyblock was also released with the majority of basic minions that are obtainable today, but there have been quite a few additions since the beginning as well. The next update, 2 days later, allowed non-ranked players to begin playing and consisted of a good amount of bug fixes. Besides that, there were some changes to the amount of unique minions needed for each slot. This update, and in fact the next 2 after it, were only described as changelogs. However, they were still given their own decimal point for some reason, being 0.2, 0.3, and 0.4. 0.3 brought a lot of balancing changes to weapons and armor that had been released up to that point. Apart from that, there were very few changes in this update, besides more bug fixes, yet again. 0.4 was the first update that added some fairly significant items to the game, including portals, the jungle axe, and mushroom soup, which are still used to some extent today. Keynote on the word some though. Besides that, you already know where I'm going, but there were more bug fixes. The next update, which finally had a title, was the Fishing Achievements and More update. It was listed as the 0.5 release, and was the first major change to Skyblock, coming a little short of a month after release. This update gave fishing more of an actual point, and at the same time made it more enjoyable. One of the main additions was 14 monsters that could be caught while fishing, which gave good drops. There were also 3 new collections added, which were lily pads, sponge, and ink sacks, with 9 tiers each. Fishing XP before this update was also extremely slow, and to fix this it was given a 4x multiplier, making it much less ridiculous to level the skill, despite it still being the slowest skilled level at the time. The update also brought bait, which could be used to increase your fishing speed, and a new minion, the fishing minion. The last of the major changes in this update were achievements. This original achievement launch brought 51 challenge achievements and 9 tiered achievements. Despite not changing the gameplay at all, adding achievements was still a cool addition to Skyblock. Lastly, some redstone was enabled, skills got rewards all the way up to 50, and the dark auction was released with the initial dark auction offerings. And of course, bug fixes. Following the fishing update came 0.6, which was titled as Guesting, Teleport Pads, and More. This update was not as large as the previous, however, it still had a ton to offer. The biggest change was the ability to visit any player with the visit command. This allowed people to show off the beautiful islands they built. It even spawned a few of my favorite videos where I showcase some of the nicest islands. With the addition of visiting, there also came teleport pads, which allowed players to teleport from one pad to another, making travel across an island much easier. A change that may not be that noticed today, but was fairly significant at the time, was some tweaks to the magma boss. The boss was given a lot more health, more loot, some new drops, including ember armor and ember fragments. This update also added a lot of smaller additions, some of which were quite significant over time. One of those would be the addition of the Hot Potato Book and Potato Collection 8, which let players increase the weapon damage and strength on weapons, or the defense and HP on armor, with a maximum of 10 Hot Potato Books able to be applied to a single item. Fishing achievements were also added, along with personal leaderboards for, well, competition. Another addition, which is definitely one of my favorite, and probably most players' favorite additions, was the release of the Telekinesis enchantment, which automatically puts items in your inventory after mining something or killing an animal, versus it dropping on the floor. Thank you. In the hopes of retaining balance, damage calculations were also reworked to be additive rather than multiplicative, because they didn't want me dealing 500 billion damage for some reason. Peace was also restored in the Lakes of Skyblock, with Frostwalker no longer working next to a bobber. The last thing I'm going to bring up from this update was the Midas Sword being massively buffed to have plus 120 strength and damage from plus 80 at 50 million coins, which began the 50 mil Midas era. There were a bunch of other changes in the update, but I'm not going to go into detail about how Sponge was changed from uncommon to common rarity. Okay, the end update. This update was the largest up to this point, adding a massive brand new island with new mobs, a new boss, new collections, which came with new minions, and many items added into the game. I don't know where to begin, so let's start with the new Ender Dragon boss. While I have said singular boss, in reality the Ender Dragon has 7 different forms: a young, old, unstable, wise, strong, protector, and superior dragon. Each dragon came with its own unique drops, which were armor sets. They also dropped fragments, which could be used to craft each dragon armor piece, and each could also drop a sword called an Aspect of the Dragons, which at the time would only be beat by a 50 mil Midas sword. To spawn in a dragon, you need to kill what are called zealots, which are all over the dragon room and have a rare chance to spawn an Ender Eye. In order to spawn in a dragon, you needed to then put 8 of those eyes into the spawning portal. To get the best drops from the dragon, you need to be one of the top players to deal damage to that individual dragon, and have contributed eyes to spawn it. The end also added a new collection, Endstone, and some actually reasonable ways to get your initial Enderman minion, rather than hoping to spawn on your island. The Endstone collection also added a new type of minion fuel, the Catalyst, the Silence Block, so mobs wouldn't make my ears bleed any longer, Haste Blocks, which I've never used, and the Endstone Sword, which I almost forgot existed. This update also added some new cosmetic skills, rune crafting, and carpentry. Rune crafting just lets you put special effects on your weapons, and carpentry let you get some custom Minecraft items for decoration, or some unique uses. Each skill is capped at level 3 for players without ranks, but since they're cosmetic, it didn't lead to that much uproar. Marco the Painter was also added to the hub, however, is rarely used, so I'm not going to talk that much about it. There are also some new collection items, including the release of Perfect Armor in Diamond Collection 9, which is a tiered armor set that gets better as you spend heaps of money on it. Awesome. And lastly, Magical Water Bucket and Emerald Blade were released at this time as well. 0.7.1. The update, which came 40 days after the end update, was a bit disappointing. Despite some of the updates before the end update being similar to 0.7.1, they came within 7 days of each other. The only new content released in this update was the Sculptor's Axe, which could be used to create a 6-sided log, the Giant Talisman Bag upgrade in Redstone Collection 11, Greater Backpacks in Leather Collection 10, and the ability to color backpacks. This update also had a ton of bug fixes, however after being used to weekly updates, an update that took 40 days having primarily bug fixes was not well received by the community. Had 0.7.1 been at least a mid-sized update, similar to the guesting update, I think would have gone over much better. 30 days after 0.7.1, Hypixel hit us with a great update bringing in the release of Slayers. Slayers brought 3 new bosses, Revenant Horrors, Tarantula Broodfathers, and 10 Packmasters, and 4 tiers of each boss, each costing more to start a quest for. The new bosses came with the items and recipes you can unlock by gaining XP for beating bosses of each type, thereby gaining levels in each Slayer category, which were Wolf Slayer, Zombie Slayer, and Spider Slayer. Wolf Slayer is one of the most important Slayers to level nowadays, as it includes 3 tiers of orbs, a Radiant Power Orb, Mana Flux Orb, and Overflux Orb, each a higher tier of the previous. The main unique armor set in the Wolf Slayer collection is called Massive Armor, which gives a ton of health by giving you 50 HP per 1% crit damage, however makes your defense 0. This makes the armor set extremely effective against fighting the spin Packmaster bosses because they ignore defense anyways. The collection also has another unique armor set called Pack Armor, which gets stronger based on how many players around you are also wearing the armor set. It also has 2 swords, a Shaman and Pooch sword, which do more damage based on your HP, deal extra damage to wolves, and decrease damage taken from wolves, making them ideal for use with the Mastiff armor set. Also in the collection are 2 separate talisman types, the Hunter Talisman and Ring, and the Red Claw Talisman, Ring, and Artifact. There are 8 different possible drops from a Spin Packmaster. These drops are Wolf Teeth, Hamster Wheels, a Spirit Rune, a Critical 6 Book, a Red Claw Egg, a Couture Rune, an Overflux Capacitor, and a Grizzly Bait. Each has a certain Slayer level requirement, odds, and level of boss, but I won't be getting into that in this video as we're focusing primarily on the history of Skyblock. The next boss we're going to talk about are Revenant Horrors. The unique armor set of Revenant Horrors is called a very unique name, Revenant Armor. Revenant armor basically gives you a ton of defense, and the amount of defense it gives you keeps increasing as you get more and more zombie kills. The Revenant collection also brought in a unique minion, the Revenant minion. On top of that, there's an upgradable sword, starting at Revenant Falchion, which upgrades to a Reaper Falchion, which finally upgrades to a Reaper Scythe. The Reaper Scythe's sword is actually relevant outside of Slayers even today, as it has the ability to spawn 3 dead monsters to fight for you. The collection also includes wands that can be used by spending mana to heal you, including the Wand of Healing, Wand of Mending, and Wand of Restoration, which are another upgradable item path. And lastly, there are some talismans, namely the Devour Ring, Zombie Ring, and Zombie Artifact. There are 9 different possible drops from Revenant Horror. These drops are Revenant Flesh, Foul Flesh, a Pestilence Rune, Undead Catalyst, a Smite 6 Book, a Beheaded Horror, Revenant Catalyst, a Snake Rune, and a Scythe Blade. And the last boss that was released in the Slayer update was the Tarantula Broodfather. The unique armor set Tarantula Broodfathers is definitely my favorite because it lets you fly by using mana and a grappling hook, which is super cool. It also has a unique ability that allows you to deal double damage in every 4 strike, and gains defense against spiders based on how many spiders you have killed while wearing the armor. The Tarantula collection also offers some unique swords and bows. The unique swords are the Recluse Fang and Scorpion Foil, and the unique bows are the Scorpion and Mosquito Bow. The Scorpion Foil basically just deals a bunch of extra damage against spiders, however the Scorpion and Mosquito Bows are quite interesting. The Mosquito Bow is a unique ability that deals 35 times your strength as damage per second for 6 seconds on fully charged shots while sneaking, whereas the Mosquito Bow has much higher base bow stats and has an ability that costs 11% of max mana, but deals 19% extra damage and heals you for 2x the mana cost on fully charged shots while sneaking. Both bows are really interesting and have had periods of time where they have been extremely OP. Also in the Tarantula collection is a Tarantula minion, which when you throw in the fact that this update added the Revenant minion as well, significantly decreased the difficulty to unlock some of the higher island minion slot capacities, and made it possible to reach a higher minion count. Lastly, there are some talismans, the Spider Ring and Artifact, and Survivor's Cube, along with a minion upgrade, the Flycatcher, which increases the speed of your minion by 20%. There are 8 possible drops from a Tarantula Broodfather. These drops are Tarantula Web, Toxic Arrow Poison, a Bite Room, a Spider Catalyst, a Bane of Arthropod 6 Book, a Fly Swatter, a Tarantula Talisman, and a Digested Mosquito. Besides all that, this update also brought a bunch of minion balance changes, which I will not be mentioning the half page of balance changes here, and it also brought bank upgrades. The bank upgrades allowed you to spend a bunch of money in enchanted gold blocks to upgrade your bank account, to allow you to have a higher max balance and have a higher percentage interest on the money you kept in the bank. And lastly, Skyblock API was released, which allowed for sites like SkyLimo and Skyblock Matt Does to exist. The next major update was 0.7.3, which came out with the release of the Spooky event, Bartender, and some new pumpkin collection items. The Spooky event was a new event that lasted 1 hour, and during that 1 hour, monsters on public islands would drop green or purple candies when you killed them. Players would earn points based on how many green and purple candies they got during the event, and get various rewards, including the very first pet released for placing high enough during it. Along with the new event came a new NPC, which showed up during the event called the Fearmongerer, where you could trade the green and purple candies you got during the event for various items, including a new legendary talisman, the Bat Artifact, and Bat Person armor, which gave plus 25% candy drop chance when wearing the full set, has significantly buffed stats during spooky events, and on top of that, it has a unique ability that gives no cooldown on grappling hooks, allowing you to practically fly while wearing the armor. The shop also offers a candy artifact, which increases your candy drop chance by 15%, and some other stuff that we won't mention here. Also in this update came some new pumpkin collection items, the training dummy at Pumpkin Collection 5, which is cool I guess, and farming boots at Pumpkin Collection 9, which give more speed the higher your farming level is, which are absolutely awesome for farming, and at the time I loved them. There are some alternatives now, but at the time, oh man. Besides that, there were some hub changes during the spooky events, some zealot balancing changes, and a bartender NPC at the hub, which sells some potion additives. 0.7.4, or more commonly known as the Foraging Island update, came out on November 11th, 2019, and completely revamped the Foraging Islands. The new Foraging Islands were much larger, and had a bunch of mini activities and quests. Some of the more notable additions were the Viking Shop, Campfire Trials, which gave a talisman that upgraded based on how long you could survive the fire, a new race, which gave another talisman, and the Romeo and Juliet quest, which gave yet another talisman. This update also brought about yet another NPC shop, which sells tactician swords and wood singularities, Tactician Sword deals decent damage and gains another 15 damage per combat collection the user has above level 7. It can also be upgraded with a Wood Singularity, which is the other purchasable item in that shop, which gives plus 100 strength to wood swords when applied, making the Tactician Sword a somewhat high mid to low high tier sword at the time. The Viking shop, which I mentioned earlier, sells Viking tiers, a Raider's Axe, and Experience 4 book. The Raider's Axe is a mid-tier weapon that gives 20 coins for each monster you kill above level 10, gains plus 1 damage per 500 kills with a max of plus 35, and gives plus 1 strength per 500 wooden collections with a max of plus 100. For its price, it's really good, but does require some work to get it as good as it can be. The new island also came with a secret cave that became an extremely popular place for people to grind Wolf Slayer, as there are a bunch of wolves in it. The following update brought the release of the Winter event, along with a Winter Island that showed up before and after the event time window. The event and the rest of the island primarily reward 3 different tiers of gifts: white, green, and red, which in the end became a tad bit underwhelming. Some of the better drops include snow minions, a snowman pet, skill XP boost potions, and luck 6, scavenger 4, and looting 4 books, which became obsolete as people began getting 10 or more of each enchant book. The event itself, which begins with a volcano exploding, is the first group event where everyone on the island attempts to protect gifts from a bunch of enemies by shooting snowballs at them. The main problem with the event initially was just the optimization with a lot of moving mobs and players. However, nowadays the main problem is that the only prize for participating are gifts, which are not particularly good. The update also came with some new additions to the Ice collection, including Ice Bait, Enchanted Packed Ice, the Frozen Scythe, Frozen Blaze Armor, and the Auger Rod. On top of that, while the Winter Island is open, players can fish in a big ice lake on the island and catch winter sea creatures, including a Frozen Steve, Frosty, Grinch, and Yeti. The main sea creature of note is the Yeti, which has a chance to drop a Hilt of True Ice, Yeti Rod, or Baby Yeti pet. The Yeti sword can be crafted from the Hilt of True Ice, along with a 30 million coin purchase in iron ingots and ice. Its unique ability allows you to throw a chunk of terrain in the direction you're facing that can deal up to 15,000 damage, which is pretty cool. The Yeti Rod is an epic fishing rod that gives plus 50% fishing speed, doubles your chance to catch winter sea creatures, and gives plus 1% walk speed for every 10 fish you catch, with the rod up to 100%. The best drop from the Yeti, which wasn't added until a later update, is the Baby Yeti pet. When active at level 100, the Baby Yeti pet gives plus 75 intelligence, plus 40 strength, has the ability Cold Breeze, which gives 50 strength and crit damage when near snow, the ability Ice Shields, that allows you to gain 100% of your strength as defense, which is insanely good, and the final ability Yeti Fury, that buffs the Yeti sword by 100 damage and intelligence. The last thing that this update also brought were 2 new reforges for fishing rods, which are Salty and Treacherous. Treacherous is the upgraded form of Salty, which gives plus 5% sea creature chance and plus 25 strength on a legendary rod. The next update, 0.7.6, came out on February 21st, 2020, and was the full-fledged release of pets. It came with the addition of another 26 new pets, obtainable through fishing, killing monsters, slaying bosses, or from the new event, the Hypixel Zoo. Some of the best pets released at this point were the Elephant, Rabbit, Silverfish, Rock, Ender Dragon, Blaze, Enderman, Phoenix, Skeleton, Tiger, Wolf. Okay, I'm basically naming 80% of the pets that are out at this point. So, for real though, most of the pets that are out at least have something that they're quite useful for. However, since combat is probably the most important, at this point the real best pets were probably Ender Dragon, Phoenix, Blaze, and Tiger. The pets that boosted skill XP were also quite good at this time, and still are, such as the Wolf pet. As there are 26 new pets at this point, which each have 3 unique skills, I'm going to skip going into detail with them so that this section of the video isn't 10 minutes long. But if y'all want a deep dive of every pet in the future, let me know in the comment section. This update also brought about quick crafting, the ability to trade coins, 2 talisman bag upgrades, so up to the humongous one now, and a lot of smaller features and changes. The next update came on March 9th of 2020 with a massive addition, the Bazaar. The Bazaar allowed for commodities such as crops, ores, fish, summoning eyes, mob drops, and wood to be sold to other players indirectly through an open market. This was a massive change to the economy, which made it fluctuate a lot more due to supply and demand. The addition of the bazaar allowed you to buy many items that are necessary for minion slots and other uses, rapidly led to many islands having more minion slots and a higher emphasis on making money than on collecting individual items. Following the bazaar update, there was a large gap of 60 days before the next release, which was 0.7.8 or Pets v2. Pets v2 brought the addition of the taming skill, which leveled up as you leveled various pets, and each taming level would give increased pet XP and increased pet luck when crafting minions that are in collections. In other words, a greater chance to craft a legendary pet than an epic. The update also brought about Pet Score, which rewards you with permanent magic find based on the amount and rarity of unique pets that you own. Lastly, this update also brought about 16 brand new pets obtainable from a bunch of different events, collections, or actions. Again, not going to go into specifics about each of the pets here today, but some of these new pets are some of the best pets still today. Another new addition in this update were pet items that give special abilities or boosts, pet candy that gives your pets an instant XP boost, Kath the pet setter, which if paid can upgrade your pet's rarity for items and money, Zog the pet item vendor, who sells a bunch of pet items, and George the pet collector, who buys pets off of you. The last major thing that this update introduced was the addition of a new mini-boss, the Endstone Protector. This new mini-boss can drop some really OP items, including a golem pet and a tier boost core. The 2 boost core can be crafted into a tier boost, which can then be used to upgrade the rarity of any pet. The next update, which was on June 2nd of 2020, was a really small update that included the release of the wardrobe, which allows you to easily swap between armor sets, rather than having them all stored in chests at your island. Definitely a great addition to the game, but it had some cheating problems early on. Besides that, backpack usage was improved by allowing you to navigate more easily between bags. As I said, this was a fairly small update, but did also include a lot of quality of life changes, like mushroom soup time, pausing while traveling between public islands. The update that followed the addition of wardrobes, 0.7.10, was a small update, but it included the addition of a few very nice items. This was the great update that added sacks for material and item storage, the personal compactors that automatically enchanted items for you, and the replenish enchant, which automatically replanted crops such as wheat, carrots, cocoa beans, and potatoes. The addition of the personal compactors and replenish simultaneously made it much easier to farm any of those crops, and upon release, cocoa bean value skyrocketed, since to craft the replenish enchant, it required quite a few enchanted cookies from the cocoa bean collection. This update also added shift clicking in UIs, and the addition of the wool weaver NPC, where you can buy wool for building. Overall, despite this update being quite small, it added a lot of super nice items and changes. The next update will be the last update we're going to discuss here in part 1, but it's a large one. The Reforge update on July 1st of 2020. The Reforge update was a massive change to the overall Skyblock damage system, with a nerf to accessory reforges, but a massive buff to weapon and armor reforges. This change was meant to rebalance reforges away from accessories and allow for a much greater build diversity with the release of dungeons coming soon after, since build diversity would be quite important in that update. Another addition to increase build diversity was the ability to reforge your entire accessory bag to a certain reforge at a decreased cost. The update also brought about the beginning of Reforged Stones, which are meant to have healthier RNG in the dev zone terms. Meaning, you are guaranteed to know how much it will cost you to get a certain reforge, rather than just hoping it doesn't cost you 20 mil to reforge your legendary sword. Attack speed was also introduced as a working statistic, which can be boosted by certain reforges on talismans, armor, and swords. With that being said, most Reforge's values were drastically changed in this update, as well to fit with the power switch moving away from talismans and into the weapons and armor. This update also introduced the Dungeon Hub in preparation for Dungeon's release, along with intelligence scaling being fixed, the addition of some gear combat requirements, a damage cap system to make certain monsters survive longer, and some item rebalancing, including the removal of the Aspect of the End's ability to teleport through blocks, which was so nice, but they had to do it for dungeons to work. Anyways, that's the end of part 1 of the history of Skyblock. If you liked the video, please like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends, because videos like these take a lot of time. If you want to talk to me, I've recently been really active in my Discord in the general chat, which will be linked down below. I'm working on part 2, which should come out sometime in the next 3 to 5 days, but similar to this, it also requires a lot of research and another almost 20-page script, so it definitely won't come out tomorrow. Anyways, hope y'all enjoyed, and see you next time.